Todd, host of Meet the Press. Good morning, Chuck. How are you?
Good morning. I will warn Jacob, you're one of the few that read all the books.
I do read the book. It's a great book. I don't know if you
It,
had a chance
it's
yet.
I have actually. He really did a good job. I mean, it was the type of sort of firsthand type of reporting that belonged in a book. If you get my
Yeah.
drift, you know what I mean?
It is. It's a book within a
Yeah,
book as well. There's a book
yeah,
about being a young reporter, and there's a book about the immigration crisis. So it'll be fun to
yeah.
talk to him. Hey, if you say the same thing for 3 years, eventually you might be right. And I said the same thing about Kamala for 3 years, that Senator Harris would be on
Yes,
the
you
ticket.
have.
So eventually I was right. It came down, did it not, Chuck, to being the safest choice.
Yes, I mean, it's interesting when something that's historical is safe. It shows you where the country is, and sort of maybe took our politics a little longer to get to where the country is on some of this stuff. But absolutely, and I'll be honest, I look so far. This is on the Democratic side. I would argue the last two running mate picks that created a jolt, right, was Palin and Lieberman. And this feels like it's giving that kind of jolt right now. I don't know where your thought. Edwards, Biden, Pence, Ryan. They were. Kane. They didn't provide this type of. This feels like it's providing something. We'll see. Let's see what the next week or so, and if it continues. But it does look like it's provided a bit of a jolt for Biden.
Well, Tim Kaine was the choice that telegraphed overconfidence. Kamala Harris
Yeah,
is not that choice. Kamala Harris is
that's
a
right.
choice
That's
that
a great point.
telegraphed, I've got a race, I've got to win, and I've also made the argument, I think that Senator Harris is to the left what Mike Pence was to the right. A reassurance that your fella at the top is going to deliver on the agenda that matters most to you. It didn't
Though,
really.
Hugh, it's interesting, and I think Pence is a good comparison because also like Pence, Kamala Harris isn't all the way, look at how Wall Street breathed a sigh of relief that it wasn't Elizabeth Warren.
Yes, or Susan Rice.
Right.
Yes.
Look at how Silicon Valley. So you do see that, yes, it's reassuring the progressives, but also to the business community that we can do business. We know her. And we know her as well. So I think that, and if you're the Trump campaign, that should bother you a little bit, that there is comfort in that world with her. It's going to be harder for them to make the socialist argument.
I did a long interview with the president this week in which I asked him about the debates are coming. Also had to defend you, Chuck. I think he likes you, but boy, does he like to poke you. I've got my Trump tattoos, but I think you
social
lead.
Media. Well, because social media, I'm one of the rare people that can fire up the left and the right on social media.
And he knows, as I said to him, he's a good host. But in any event, what we got to with the debates, I asked him if the Biden campaign is successfully lowering expectations, and he joined in to call lowering expectations. That's what's going on, isn't it? There are going to be 3 debates, and the expectations for Joe Biden are very low now.
It is. Look, I've stopped sort of scratching my head at sort of strategic decisions that come out of the Trump world because they're not very strategic, and if they are, I don't understand what the strategy is. When it comes to debates, I mean, Joe Biden's track record as a debater is quite good.
Especially on one-on-one. Especially on one-on-one.
Especially on one-on-one. Ask Paul Ryan, right? Like, this is not going to be somebody, and yet the president and his supporters, they basically made it. If Biden shows up, they're going to be surprised. So I do scratch my head at that one as to why they think that's a good strategy for them, because the president is an omnipresence on the debate stage, but I wouldn't argue he's a great debater, if that makes sense.
No, it does. He gets off good lines, and if flustered, Joe Biden will lose. But if he doesn't get flustered, he will not lose. If he does not lose, he wins. That's my assessment. Now I have a professional question. This has never happened to me in 30 years. Ron Johnson flat out lied to me on the air yesterday. I mean, just flat out lied, said he couldn't get subpoenas out to Comey, Brennan, Clapper, and Rogers because his committee was blocking him. I didn't know that he had the unilateral authority to do it. What, has that ever happened to you? They just flat out lie?
Yes, it happens, sadly. And it's after the fact, and you hope to get it back next time and see if they fumble around. And this is real-time interviews are hard.
Okay, that's what
these things.
You've had Ron Johnson a number of times. I think he's
Yeah, well,
uniquely bad on live
I
radio or
look, I'm not.
television.
I'm not somebody. I don't like to judge. People like to get me to judge my interviews or judge people I've interviewed, and I just don't. I don't like to get into it. I don't like to do it. At the end of the day, I work on a program that's designed to get information out to the public, and it's sort of like I get. I always get uncomfortable trying to characterize. I will say this: I think Ron Johnson has a habit of talking in circles more often than some politicians, and that it does make it very difficult to feel like you're getting crisp information. I've had run-ins with him myself on the air.
Yeah, I've explained to everyone I know who's going on your show, including Ambassador O'Brien. Answer Chuck's questions, it'll go fine. It's the one thing that drives me crazy when people won't answer a question. That's usually when an interview goes downhill. So here's
That's
the
right.
bigger
If you
question.
don't accept the premise, and I always believe that my premises are based in fact. I'm sure others are going to be listening out there. That's not true. Whatever. That's your opinion, but I believe I'm. So yes, if somebody doesn't accept the premise, I take it as somebody saying we're lying. So yes, a interview will go off the rails on that front.
This is what I experienced yesterday. It did go off the rails. But now to the point. I believe that the Republicans have missed the opportunity, completely missed the opportunity to bring in former FBI Director Comey, former CIA Director Brennan, former NSA Director Rogers, former Director of National Intelligence Clapper. They've run out the clock, and they are unaware of the impact this has on the base. Now, it's not the fault of Martha McSally, Cory Gardner, David Perdue, Susan Collins. They're not involved, but I believe the drag is going to impact them. Do you think I'm overstating the problem?
I think it just depends on. Here's the problem. Okay, this looks like it's very politically polarizing, this issue, and this late in the process, it looks like a political hit job. This would have been much more credible if they'd done it 6 months ago. Had they done it right out, if you whatever it is, it looks like a political hit job, and I think, frankly, that's why. Here's what it sounds like to me: Ron Johnson wants cover for these subpoenas, and nobody wants to give him cover for these subpoenas. And that's what he's probably looking for in this, which is why he came up with this excuse to you. But the fact is, I think there's a lot of discomfort on the politics of this, left and right, among elected officials, that this looks like like you're doing some political trumped up witch hunt or something, trying to benefit Trump this late in the process, and you end up, making it even more uncredible, this process. So I think you're right. It's too late. I think it's too close to the election. I think it will smell to a lot of people.
It's too late, and that's what I said to him. And our mutual friend Chris Matthews in his book Hardball said, "Hang a lantern on your problem." The answer is, I'm sorry, we messed up, but we can't bring him in this late. It will look like it's political when this is too important. But that's an easy answer, and you get a little bit of heat, but it's a one-day story. Chuck, tell me, are you going to have Senator Harris this weekend? Do you know yet?
I doubt this weekend. No, I don't think they're putting. It's my understanding. I doubt we see her until she gives her speech. I mean, that's, in fairness, I've not seen a VP candidate go out on the Sunday shows before convention ever in my experience. So
okay, so
if
my
I get her,
question,
great, but I would be surprised.
if there is a speech, I actually don't know that a speech will make sense, given it's going to be the empty room State of the Union speech.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't a press conference be better?
I don't know. I think you want to give. I think you want to get. Look, I thought their speeches yesterday. It was awkward not to have the applause lines in the room, right?
Right.
But forget. Set that aside. How else? I thought they had a pretty coherent 1-2 punch yesterday on messaging, on stuff. So it's tough to do in a press conference. Ask Donald Trump, right? So I think I take your point as to trying to make it a better event to digest. But boy, look, we'll see. I'm very curious. There was something that the Biden folks did yesterday that I thought was smart. Right after Harris finished, when normally you'd expect applause, they played the Merv Griffin music. I call it Merv Griffin music because it sort of reminded me a little bit of like the Merv.
Play
Griffin
him off
show,
the stage, yeah.
But play him off the stage, create music, but have this music, that fills the airspace for people watching on video, right? And I thought that helps a little. Look, I'm going to be very curious to see how the next 2 weeks work.
You and I were both in the room when Sarah Palin raised the roof in Minnesota. That's what Kamala Harris won't have a chance to do, and that's too bad.